You're listening to Ricky and Jimmy on Relationships, the show where we uncover the thoughts and behaviors that are sabotaging your relationship and what you can do about it. Jimmy and I are passionate about sharing the ways that imperfect partners like you and I can shift unhealthy relational dynamics and create closeness. So welcome. Drop your defenses and open your heart, eyes, and ears. Let's learn how to be the best partner we can be together.
All right, welcome back. So I don't know when our last episode is. For the listeners it's been a bit. We haven't recorded together in like a couple weeks, 3 weeks at least, but we want to be, our goal is to be more consistent. So any of you that are actually listening, we are so grateful for you. And we will, our goal is to definitely be more consistent in 2024. So email me if you want. I don't know Ricky's email, but jimmyonrelationships@gmail. If you have topics that you really want us to talk about on the podcast.
Oh,
Ricky's email,
I like that. Honestly, Instagram's the best way to get a hold of me.
DM her.
Yeah. Instagram DM, Anxious Hearts Guide.
I love that. So today we are actually, Ricky and I both got this email from a wonderful female listener, and we want to just read you the email real quick and then break down some of the points that we thought were super interesting about her question. And it's all kind of centered around everybody's needs and how long do I wait for my partner to meet my needs and how to discuss those and stuff like that. So I'm going to let Ricky take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. And like he said, if you guys have a question, we enjoy these a lot. So please do email Jimmy or DM me on Instagram. Okay, this email from our female listener starts out, I would love you or Jimmy, or both of you, to give me some insight on this situation. How long should you wait for your partner to meet your needs? We get into these heated arguments. They eventually turn into healthy conflicts where both of us feel heard and understood, but then it feels like he's not reaching my bare minimum. And he says he's trying, but to me, it doesn't feel like enough change and mindfulness actually took place. Am I being gaslit? Is he genuinely trying his best? Am I asking too much? Have I not given him enough time to make all the changes? He seems genuine in wanting to fix it during our conflicts. For context, this may help. We've been together 4 years. We both work full-time. We don't have any children. We're 50-50 split on the bills. I feel as though I do a majority of the cooking, cleaning, even mowing the lawn when he's at work, so that when he comes home, he doesn't have to do it and we can spend time together. I initiate sex, give massages. I add every song that he puts into the car onto a playlist for him on my phone, which isn't my type of genre anyway, so that I can play it for him and look out for concerts, plan dates with his interest in mind, and trying to learn about his interests too. Fishing, cars, video games. I tried using the Paired app with him, but he didn't keep up with it. He does write me sweet poems from time to time. He doesn't let me walk on the side of the sidewalk closest to the street. He opens doors. He fixes the car. He even watches your videos with me. When I address a lot of these issues, I'm usually met with, I'm tired, I'm stressed, work was rough, I don't feel like it, I'm depressed, or I don't know how to meet your needs. And I can't help but think, yeah, me too, on all those things. But I know that the house still needs cleaned, we still need food, and I still want to make him feel loved. He's also asked me to be patient because he wasn't modeled a healthy relationship as a child, and he didn't have one himself before me. But I didn't have those things either. So what's the reasonable amount of time for him to play catch up? Thank you so much if you took the time to read this, and even more so if you took the time to reply or use it on your podcast. I'm sure you get a million of these messages. Thanks again.
Yeah, so I love this. Thank you for writing in. And this is a situation that probably the vast majority of people listening can identify with at least some of this. Potentially all of it. I mean, this is an extremely common dynamic. So we're just kind of hash it out. We'll pick things that are from here. I'm sure that if something stood out for you and you're like, oh, I hope they talk about that, we probably will, because we'll just pick certain things out. I don't know where you want to start, but I know I can just like start and I'm sure we'll cover everything.
Go ahead, okay. You start. I'll add on to it. I've got things to say too, for sure.
Okay, well, I'm going to start from the top. How long should you wait to meet your partner's needs? I probably shouldn't have started that question because I don't have an actual answer to that.
You don't. Well, we're going to get there.
We're going to get there. I think that the more we talk about this, the more you'll see that like I can tell you 4 years is too long, but but okay. Let's just start with this. We get into these heated arguments. Okay, let's stop there. This is one red flag where you shouldn't be getting into these heated arguments. So, like, first of all, what are these heated arguments about? You say that they end well. They eventually turn into healthy conflicts where we both feel heard and understood. Okay, then why are they so heated to begin with? They're heated because your needs aren't being met, and you're starting to. You're tired of your needs not being met, and you don't really know where to. Like, I feel like I'm this to me. This sounds very, and we'll get into this more in a second. Sounds very over functioning. It sounds very. There's probably some anxious attachment in there, but we you know we wouldn't dare diagnose you just from this. But it does sound like, of course, things are going to be heated when you haven't felt fulfilled or you don't feel like somebody's reciprocating your efforts. Of course, those are going to start. But that's one thing that you need to buckle down on is. How are you getting into these heated arguments? Are you coming at him strong? Because he doesn't look like someone who has a lot of emotional bandwidth to be able to, it's like, you got to come at him super soft. I mean, you got to be doing the Gottman soft startup with him. You got to be talking from a place of, I statements. This is what I need to feel close to my partner. This is how I feel when this happened. So you got to be very careful that you're not leading with criticism and passive aggressiveness, and because there's a small emotional bandwidth there. A good
those
book
are really great
that we
points.
just read was Julie Manano's book, Secure Love. Yeah, Secure Love. Check that book out. He seems like the type of guy that would be open to reading that with you, and so I would read that book with him. I don't know. I'll let Ricky, but I have a ton more to say, but I don't want to take up all of it.
No, that's okay. We'll kind of bounce back and forth.
Yeah, let's bounce back and forth.
Because Jimmy and I are working on our interrupting as well. Mostly me. I'm trying to
working on anything. I love when you
You're
interrupt
not working
me, and
on anything? I love it.
I'm planning on interrupting you. So
okay, noted. One thing that I wish that I could ask her is, how heated are the arguments, right? Sometimes arguments can just feel a little bit tense. And if she's really sensitive to that, she might describe them as heated when it's really just uncomfortable, which is a really normal thing to describe arguments as. And if they're like heated, like people are yelling or throwing things, that's a completely different situation. So just saying they have heated arguments doesn't tell me much, but I know that in a healthy relationship that's growing and getting better, I think arguments are supposed to get less heated over time because we're creating more and more safety. We're learning more and more tools with each other so that the communication gets a little smoother. That's not to say that it goes away, the conflict or the issues, but it doesn't sound from the email like the arguments are getting better over time. It kind of sounds like they're getting worse.
Can I interject that for 2 seconds?
Yes, please do. Yeah.
When she says both of us, they eventually turn into healthy conflicts where both of us feel heard and understood. I would push back on her on that because me, this sounds like a avoidant appeasing.
Yeah.
So, and I'll tell you why in just a second, because he says, well, I'm not going to be able to find it now, but he's appeasing her. I don't think he's not really following through. If you're telling him okay, right. So this is what I need. She says that right afterwards. But it doesn't feel like there's any change. And but then I feel like he's not reaching the bare minimum. Yeah. Right.
And at the bottom, he says, I don't know how. I don't know how to, she's not making it clear during those heated arguments exactly what she needs him to do.
Even if she is making it clear, he's not at a place where he can't absorb that. And that happens all the time. That happens all the time where even if people told you exactly what you needed, I'm not saying that this relationship is a him problem, but it could be. There's some people that are so rooted in their own shame. And he even admits, I didn't have a healthy place, not to mention the fact that she threw out a massive keyword there of depression. I mean, when depression is a real deal. And when you're dealing with somebody who has depression, dealing is a strong word. I just mean when you're in an intimate relationship with someone who struggles in that way, we forget that how deep of a struggle that is. That impacts you. Depression takes over. I mean, he will, when he appeases you like that, he's essentially, this argument is so overwhelming for him. And this avoidant leaning people do this all the time, where it seems like you had a good resolution to the argument because they're kind of, I mean, I can't think of another word besides appeasing, but you get what I'm saying, where they're just like, they kind of turn on the, you're right. Okay. I totally get it. You're right. I need to do better. Yep. You're absolutely. And you're like, oh, wow. They're listening to me.
Right.
But there's no follow through because they're just trying to get out of this uncomfortableness. They're just like, please get me out of this. Like, I hate conflict. I hate this.
Which is so common in insecure attachment. Both the anxious and the avoidant side are like, I need to end this conflict and argument right now. And appeasing, which is just kind of doing lip service to the partner, is a really common avoidant tactic. Now, that's not to say that he's not doing that intentionally, like, oh, I'm just going to tell her yes, but I don't have any intention. In his mind, the thing is, I need to say whatever I can say so that we're back to feeling good. You know?
Absolutely.
And so I think his intentions are pure, but it doesn't solve the problem. It's a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. You know?
And he is absolutely right when he says, I don't know how. But now I still have, if he were sitting in front of me, if it was just him and I would say, whatever his name is, John, I would say, John, like,
no,
you
Frank.
have to
It's
I'm
Frank,
sorry, Frank.
Jimmy.
I'm sorry, Frank.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, Frank, listen, like, I understand, or I want to understand what you're going through, but at the same time, like, you need to understand that this is your most intimate partner and they don't feel like you're showing up. And you can do one of two things with that. That can give you a tremendous amount of shame, or it can propel you to some sort of growth and maturity. And so we really just want to figure out what would make Frank inspired to go into the maturity and like, okay, I want to learn about this because that stuff is scary. All this stuff can be very scary. Anyways, I'll let you say, and then I'll keep working through it.
Yeah. Well, I love when she mentions that he watches our videos with her. That to me looks like a man who is in no small part committed to making things better. So that's really, really promising. And when she asks the very first question of the email, how long should I wait for my partner to meet my needs? It's really promising to see that he's a guy who's watching relationship videos together, that's a huge step. There's a lot of people listening to this that are like, I wish my partner would listen to stuff like this with me.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope that I'm doing a good enough job at like remembering that he's on the other end. Like I want to help him too. I don't, cause obviously I want to validate her and like, it's so frustrating when you feel like your partner isn't reciprocating. It's so frustrating. It causes you a tremendous amount of your own stress. Like when your partner is depressed and when your partner's not reciprocating, when you feel like you're putting in all the effort and when you feel like you're learning about this stuff, you're watching our channels, you're like, oh, no, I'm practicing the soft startups. I'm coming to him. I'm literally coming to him. I'm begging him. I'm telling him exactly what he could do to fill my love tank. Exactly. I give him the blueprint. And guess what he does? He says, he shame spirals. Oh gosh, no. Oh, well, or he just appeases me. You're right. I got to do better. You're right. And then there's no change. Like that is frustrating in the, like, of course that's terribly frustrating. Okay. So what should we
empathize.
So what should we go? So
I've got some points. Okay. I've got some points that I wrote down, specifically for this, that I try to tell people when they ask, how long should I stay? How long should I wait? Because I've been there when the situation's like killing you and you're like, am I giving too much time? Am I giving too much empathy to this person in ways that makes it feel like I'm losing myself or I'm not half of this relationship? So the first most frustrating thing that I have to say for those folks is that self-trust, the ability to know and believe that we are the ones who get to determine whether or not we're giving too much of ourselves. Man, that's a horribly difficult first step, but it's necessary. No self-help guru or even a counselor, certainly no one in your family or your friends is able to definitively tell you, you are giving too much. Not me, not Jimmy, not anybody that you could ask. You have to be able to look inside yourself, in your mind, in your heart, and say, is this feeling like something I can't bear? And that's really, really important, that you know that that decision ultimately rests with you and not outside of yourself. Do you have any thoughts on that one, Jimmy? I know that's a horrible
that
first
makes
step.
No, I know. All this stuff it's so hard when you're trying to decide. Here's the good news: you're dating, you don't have kids. I mean, you've been together for 4 years, so obviously, if this was to end, of course, this would be hard. Of course, this would be so hard, and you would, if you're not in the best headspace, you would second guess yourself for a long time. Like maybe if I just did this, maybe if I just did that. But what that struck in my mind was, I don't know, you talk a lot about this. I don't know if this is the way to say it, but the sunk cost fallacy, that comes to mind, where I just want to remind her that just because you've put in 4 years, that doesn't mean that you are like pot committed in a poker. That's what we call when you kind of feel like you have to stay in the hand because you've put so much money in. I wouldn't say that for you. I'm not saying to get out. I'm just saying that if you come to the decision to get out, I don't want you thinking, yeah, but I've already put in so much time. It's like, no, well sorry. Like, that's just not the way it works. Like, anyways. So what I was going to say is, here's what we know. We know that the way things are going right now is not working for you. And that's perfectly reasonable. Like, if one of the biggest things that nobody really harps on enough is like, when you don't feel like your efforts are being reciprocated in a relationship, it causes you to just, go a little bit crazy when you're
Absolutely.
So I don't remember where I was going with that. I'm sorry, but
do you want me to take over?
Yeah, please.
You had so much fire. I was just going to let you run with it there.
Thank you.
So I liked it, Jimmy, even if it kind of trailed off at the end there. No worries.
Yeah, it happens to me.
It does happen. We don't plan this out very well. We just kind of wing it, guys. I think they like that too.
Yeah. Sometimes I have so many competing thoughts in my head of where I want to take it that I end up going down a road that I'm like, how come this doesn't have anywhere? Why'd you take me down this road?
No, we're here for that energy on the Ricky and Jimmy on Relationships podcast. Okay. So my second question, that I would want someone to ask themselves is, am I addressing this with my partner in a kind, direct way, which you said earlier, Jimmy, which I love, that also considers their needs and values? And this 100%. Is for my anxious folks. Sometimes, especially when we feel like we're not getting what we need in a relationship, we get laser focused on that fact. And we're in like self-preservation mode. I have to make sure I get this thing and I'm really upset about it. And I am guilty of this for sure. We lose sight of the fact that a relationship is composed of two people who have two different ideas on how they want things to look. The ability for you guys to come together and find a solution that values both of your needs and desires is vital. So you got to find out from Frank if his vision for the relationship looks close enough to your vision for the relationship for it to make sense for both of you.
And it's tragic. I don't mean to keep harping on if this relationship ends, but it's tragic when these relationships end. I totally understand that. But here's the thing. So we talk about our needs a lot, and I think that's so important. And it's like what Ricky was just saying, like sometimes we get so hyper focused on our needs that we forget about our partners. But at the end of the day, it doesn't sound like this relationship is meeting your legitimate needs, and that's a big deal. So I think that you need to be honest about that, and I'm sure you have with him. But that's one of the things also I love about reading Julie Manano's book, Secure Love. This is like me promoting Secure Love. Any book that I've read recently, I feel like is a great book people should read because I just read it. Yeah, she does a great job at validating the fact that it's okay to have needs, and and so it's very important for me to say, in order for me to feel close to my partner, I need to know that my efforts are reciprocated. I need to know that you value me. I need to see effort that, in here's the thing. I don't think you're asking for too much. And you even say, I think you might even say that in the very beginning. You say, well,
Her
yeah, I
bare
don't know.
minimum.
Yeah,
That's what
like
she refers to it
yeah.
as. Yeah.
You say, is he gaslighting me? Oh yeah. Am I asking too much? You say that.
Yeah.
No, you're not asking too much. You're asking for reciprocation. You're asking for to see that someone is willing to prioritize you, and you're not, that need is not being met, and that's a big deal. And that goes
Yeah.
back to that depression comment. I think that is very central, that he admitted. He said, I'm tired, I'm stressed, work was rough, I don't feel like it, I'm depressed. That's a big deal. He's telling you depression isn't just like, he's not just saying, oh, I'm depressed. Like, depression is a big deal. Like, if he's admitting that,
Yeah.
I hope he's getting some form of help for that, because that's something that he needs help for. And you can have empathy for that, but anxious hearts especially, if we can get very caregivery, aka we like to save people, that especially when they have depression, we think that our love is going to save them, and then we get really bitter and really resentful when our love doesn't save them and they don't change and they're not making the effort, and we're putting in a lot of effort. So you have to remember that even if this relationship ends, like, it could still turn around. It could turn around. I'm just saying that he does need to put in the work for it to turn around, unfortunately. And if he's not willing to do that, while you might be tempted to be like, he's been through so much, and when you have those conversations where you're more assertive and you're like, listen, I don't want this relationship to end, but this is what I've decided I needed for this relationship to continue. And he's crying and he's like, I don't want this relationship to end. But then once again, you see no effort in the coming weeks and months. That's going to be really, really hard for you. And you have to be super clear in your head to where you're like, okay, I am going to get out of this relationship, but I also still have a lot of empathy for this person and I love them. Like, those two things can coexist. I love this person. I don't see myself being fulfilled in this relationship long term.
Yeah. That's a really hard truth to face. It's something I write about on my page a lot. Someone can be a really wonderful person, and sometimes they're still an awful fit for us. And that's a horribly sad truth that must be faced. Yeah. Something that she says in here too, have I not given him enough time to make all the changes? I've got thoughts on that question specifically. I think it's important when we ask somebody about a change that needs to be made, that both partners agree, this is exactly what I'm going to do to make this change, and this is how we're going to implement that. Just waiting around to see if they think up a way to meet that is not a great strategy, because they might not know exactly what to do. They might have a plan and they're executing it, but incorrectly. I don't think you should ever wait around to see if they're going to make the changes that you ask for. Make sure that both people know exactly what needs to be done and what time frame that needs to happen by. If you're afraid to have that conversation with them, you can have that conversation with yourself too. There are changes that I need to see by this certain time, and if it doesn't happen, then I've got to have a very different conversation with myself or my partner that might look like saying this relationship is not working, unfortunately.
I love that. Yeah, to my answer to that question, yes, you've given him enough time. I would assume you've probably gone over this numerous times,
right?
Where you've had,
which means find a different strategy, right?
100%.
Instead
Find a
of just
different strategy, or so. What I think you need to do, if I was giving you advice, which I guess I should have been doing the whole time, I would say you need to take a little bit of emotion out of this, which is extremely hard to do. So let me just preface that. You need to, if I were in your position, or if you were my friend in this position, I would tell you that you need to be assertive, not rude, but assertive. Something changes. So I'm not saying you need to trick the avoidant. I'm not saying you need to manipulate them, but avoidance specifically, if they're dealing with shame, if they're dealing with depression, I don't see a lot of him taking initiative. Like, I doubt that he's reading any books on relationships or depression or like how to fill your partner's love tank. I doubt he's doing any of that. I'm going to go ahead and assume that. Whereas you might be. My point is that you need to take emotion out of this and you need to get very assertive. I'm not saying you need to like scare them straight, but you need to tell them what's up. Because I don't think I think you're scared to do that. I'm scared to do that. Who isn't scared to do that?
Oh, it's scary. Yeah.
Terrifying. But Ricky has stories, and I won't go into them because I love when she reminds us all of how important it is to be assertive in your relationship and literally say, this isn't working for me the way we're doing it. However, I'm willing to put in the work. I'm willing to put in the work. I'll go to counseling with you tomorrow. I'll read a book with you tomorrow. I'll talk about this. But this isn't the way we're doing things isn't working for me. That's a very powerful and assertive thing to say. And it's not a mean thing to say. I'm not saying.
And it's a sexy thing to say. I love calling assertiveness sexy, but it is my, early on in dating my partner, I would be terrified to assert myself and say, hey, babe, these things I need and I feel good about needing them. And here's what we need to do. I thought he was going to run for the hills, which actually would have been a good thing. If I had said that and he ran for the hills, that's a good thing if they run away from you. But I summoned the courage and I said, hey, there are things that I need in order for me to enjoy this relationship. And I need you to know them so that I can enjoy this relationship because that's important to me. And he was so turned on by that. And I was like, what? You enjoy that? It's actually, it's actually a wonderful thing to assert ourselves in a relationship. It is.
And it feels when you're this deep, I mean, you're 4 years in.
That's a long time.
It's a long time. In your mind, I'm sure you were hoping we should be engaged by now. We should be on a different path than we're at right now. And I totally understand that. And I do still think this thing can be turned around. But he also needs to acknowledge that he's in some deep ingrained patterns. I mean, depression, shame, those are massive burdens on the relationship as a whole and on him. He has to start on his healing journey. And you can't, that's what's so hard about all this stuff is you can't just wait around hoping that somebody gets on a healing journey. Because I can promise you, if you marry this dude, and nothing changes, and he's just still in the same pattern of I'll appease you, I will repeat back to you because I know the system now. If you're upset, I know how to appease you so the conflict calms down. I've checked that box, conflict goes away, and then I don't really do anything. One, I wasn't paying attention anyways because my nervous system was triggered. So I am like I was in fight or flight as well. So I wasn't really paying attention to what you were saying. I was just appeasing you, and so that's why I'm not going to really follow through on anything because we didn't really come to a healthy agreement of what our relationship is going to look like. And once again, I don't know where I was going with that either. So you're gonna have to save me.
I don't know where you were going to end up. I was with you though. I was on that train.
My point is that you just need to be assertive and say, I don't see you as a failure, but this is what I need. This is what I need in my relationships. And this is what it looks like for me. This is what that looks like. I have a need for closeness.
Jimmy, you were painting a picture of what the future looks like if he's not changing.
Oh, if you got married to him.
Yeah. And that's okay. Cause that very dark place is where I was going next. Right.
Yeah,
let's say that our dear listener, reads all about the Gottman Soft startup and is very specific about what she needs. She's doing all the right things. And unfortunately, poor Frank is too depressed or too mired in shame in order to pull himself out of this and put forth the kind of effort that would feel good for her. So, and I tell people this too, they hate it, but it's the medicine that we need to hear, I think. If nothing ever changes about his behavior, will I still feel good about staying in this relationship?
No. And the answer is no.
And the answer is no. That's a really hard question to ask.
That's what's
we
so
can
hard.
tell. Yeah, we can tell from this email that things, the way that they aren't working for you. So I mean, if you're listening, and I assume you are, make sure you realize that if this never changes, you told old Ricky and Jimmy, this is not working for me the way that it is.
Yeah. And the reason why I have hope for him is because he did ask you to be patient, and I don't think he was manipulating you. I don't think he
I
was just like,
agree.
yeah, he's asking you to be patient because deep down he truly does want this relationship to work. He doesn't know how. He doesn't have the emotional bandwidth. He doesn't have the emotional capacity.
Yeah.
But the problem is that you're taking that on you, whereas he needs to take that on him. And that's
Yeah.
so hard. That's so hard. But you can't do that work for him. He has to, if he says, I didn't have a healthy model or a healthy relationship model for me, that's when you say, let's go learn about one together. Let's book that counseling
Totally.
appointment. Let's read
Absolutely.
Secure Love. Let's read Secure Love
Right.
and just see what we can get out of it together. Because while I understand how difficult it is for some people to put in the relationship work because of shame, because of depression, whatever, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter to me because I see relationships as an equation. And right now you're not matched up. You're admitting from this email alone, you're admitting my needs aren't getting met, which means that nothing's going to change in the future if your needs continue to go unmet. This relationship is on a trajectory, and it's not going to end well if it just stays the same. We can all agree to that. So something has to change because, in my opinion, I say this constantly, so I know people are tired of hearing it, but in my opinion, closeness and connection require two people. And if you have one person for whatever reason, and they're not willing to put in the work that closeness and connection and intimacy and trust and friendship and playfulness, all that stuff requires things from us. If they're not willing to put in that work for whatever reason, then you're not going to get the benefit of the work. You're not going to see the closeness, and you're not going to see the connection. And that, unfortunately, that leads you to an unfulfilling relationship long term. So
Yeah. Yep. I want to say too, I didn't have a healthy model for relationships, and it derailed my marriage. And when I realized that I was at least 50% of the issues in my relationship, I went out and I read every book I could possibly get my hands on. Not because so you don't use that kind of stuff as an excuse, like, oh, just give me 4 more years of sucking at this because nobody taught me. It's like, I went out and taught myself. And that kind of energy
100%.
is what you want someone to bring to a relationship. That's part of the reason that my partner early on, when I first started dating my partner, Chris, he was looking at me like, whoa, she's got some issues. Like it was very plain to see.
You still do.
I still do.
No,
of course,
I'm so sorry.
do.
I derailed you. I'm so sorry.
I was like, gosh, do I? No, I totally do. You're right. I still do. But
we all do.
But you know what else he saw? He saw somebody with a stack of books a mile high next to their bed on being less emotionally volatile, communicating kindly and directly. I mean, he knew he had evidence in front of him that even though Ricky was really emotional and maybe didn't know how to communicate well, I was working on it, And
Not to mention you were assertive.
Totally. And that, which was so sexy. He couldn't look away.
Absolutely. There's nothing better than somebody who knows what they want out of this relationship in a kind way, not in a dominant way.
Right. But also somebody who knows that they have issues, and instead of going, sorry, that's just the way I am, someone 100%. Who knows they have issues and says, I'm doing everything that I can in my power. Because
accountability is so sexy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's super sexy. Super sexy.
I'm sorry. I interrupted you. Keep going.
That's
Keep
all right. Now I'm kind of just fantasizing in my head about what a sexy, assertive partner I am.
Right.
Anyway, so I have one more kind of weird pointer for people too. And this is for the anxious folks too, because sometimes in anxious attachment, we can kind of fall into, there's a pitfall where we have this mountain of needs all of a sudden. And sometimes they're kind of weird. Like, I need someone to text me every single hour that they love me. It can get extreme. So I like to ask, and this can be a slippery slope, so be careful here, listeners. But I like to ask myself, can I get this need met elsewhere and still feel good about my decision to stay with this person? So that one can be a little tricky, but it's also like, sometimes, especially in anxious attachment, we do need a little bit too much. Some of our needs are like kind of crazy. Like I've heard people say, I want to hang out with my partner 7 days a week. And I'm like, whoa, that's a lot of days a week. There aren't even any days left over for other stuff. So somebody that feels like they want that much quality time and the partner's going, absolutely not. I don't have 7 days a week to give you. That person might say, gosh, can I spend at least 2 or 3 days a week hanging out with friends? Can I take this off the table and still feel good about my decision to stay with my partner? That's kind of an iffy example, but do you know what
I absolutely,
where I'm going with that?
Yeah. And it's so vital that we remember our partner isn't responsible for meeting all of our needs. Like
totally.
You can, and how we decide that is, that's probably a topic for another day, but, because I'm sure we could spend a lot of time on that, but, but like for instance, it's dangerous to say, well, I need my partner to spend 7 days with me. It's like, well, do you need that? Or is that an anxious tendency that you need to work on, so those things are tricky, obviously, to figure that out. But I mean, I guess that's why they have professionals out there that try to help you with that.
It absolutely is. Counseling
because your partner is not going to meet all your needs. And like there's countless people listening that are married and have kids, and they're like, I want my partner to meet this need, and the sad reality is that they might never do that. I have needs that I wish Emily would meet, and I don't. Yeah, and I don't know if she ever will. I have to think to myself, how can I go get this need met elsewhere?
I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that, Jimmy.
The severity of that is very important. Like if I'm like, well, I need intimacy in my relationship, and that's a biggie. Like that's obviously that's a huge for me.
A huge
and so
one.
If Emily wasn't willing to meet that, if she was like, I don't want to meet that need for you, I can't really go get that need met in friendships. Like, oh, well, I'm just going to go hang out with John and Frank. Like we're going to be intimate together. While you can have intimate friendships, it's not going to feel, whatever question you asked was very important, where it's like, am I still going to feel fulfilled in this relationship? And the answer would be no.
What a perfect example. Yeah. Can I give an example of a need that's like, because I think that was wonderful for you to say, okay, I'm missing intimacy. I'm going to get that met elsewhere. You can't do that. But here's one, a great example. My partner hates texting. And if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that. My partner hates texting. And in the beginning of my relationship, I was like, I love texting. Man, am I going to have to be in a relationship without heart emojis? Like, is that going to be my reality? And at some point I sat myself down. Well, first I sat Chris down and talked to him about it. And he was like, you know what? That's not my thing. Like, I'm sorry, but that's not my thing. And I had to realize and respect, he truly doesn't want that thing for himself. And I was like, okay, if his needs matter too, I'm like, can I let that one go? Can I imagine myself being happy in a relationship that doesn't include like heart emoji texting? And I realized I can. I was like, I have so much fun texting my friends and my sister and my mom. I was like, I think I can actually get that fun texting need met elsewhere, because my partner's still calling me a lot, and I love that. So
I love that. There's obviously core needs, and we did an episode on needs. I would love to redo that episode since I forgot so much about it, but people actually like that one episode.
We should redo it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's core needs: trust, intimacy, connection, emotional safety. Like there's core needs: healthy communication, conflict resolution, all that stuff. Those are core needs. But like, let's think about this. Some people have a need for adventure in their life. They're like, I love adventure. I wish my partner and I would go out and hike, stuff like that. Well, you might get with a partner who has no interest in hiking. And they might have done it when you were dating, because you were dating, but eventually you get married with kids and you're like, you want to go hiking? And they're like, no, I'm not going. So those are one of those needs that you truly need to, instead of like being like angry that they won't meet that need for you, you need to just go ahead and take that and go ahead and get some hiking buddies and go out with them. And that's how you fulfill other needs, because your partner isn't designed to meet every single one of your needs.
But those things like intimacy and and feeling loved. There's some very basic, I think they're probably
non-negotiables.
Yeah, they're probably what she was referring to as her bare minimum, right?
100%.
When those things aren't being met, that's an emergency. That's an emergency that needs to, you need to address that in your relationship. Don't sit around and wait and hope that they finally get the hint one of the days that
they won't
in the future, because they won't.
They won't.
You need a plan together and try to execute that plan. And sometimes, listener, it doesn't pan out. That's when you uncover the fact that you guys might be a very poor fit for each other. Even despite the fact that there's a lot of love. It is tragic.
100%. And going back to intimacy, I like how she said, well, I don't like it, but she says, I initiate the bedroom. I give massages.
Yeah.
That also ties into the depression, because he's probably not doing those things. He's not touching you in the way that you would love him to touch you, non-sexually or sexually. He's not initiating. The reason that you added that is because it's like, I'm really trying here. Like, I'm the one that initiates all this stuff. So those are the conversations that you need to have with him. And that's probably why it starts heated, because you're like, I'm always the one that does this.
Right. The resentment, the built up resentment.
I totally understand, because it's like, but those are conversations that you need to be having where you just identified some very clear desires. And you need to tell him honestly how that makes you feel. Like, hey, I'm the only one initiating this. And that really hurts. It makes me feel undesired. It makes me feel like you don't care about, I mean, you're not even bringing it up. You're not even like if I stopped, we would just never do the bedroom anymore. And that's and that breaks my heart. I want us to have a fulfilling relationship there. And so those are the conversations that you have to talk about.
Right. Yeah. I totally just interrupted you there, Jimmy.
No.
I'm excited.
I liked it.
You liked it. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. She's got a list of things that she does to show him love.
Yes.
Those are probably the things that she wants herself.
100%.
So she can come to him prepared with that list. Like, I am really sad that it feels to me like you're not initiating sex. So what do you think if, like, Friday nights where Frank initiates sex night? What do you think of that, Frank? And he might be like, okay, that I can do that. Like, Friday night can be the night that he gives her a massage. Who knows what happens from there? But that's Frank massaging our listener night. Yeah, right, exactly. Start there and see what happens. And giving, works especially well with folks who have or lean toward avoidant attachment. Giving them a way to win can help them not feel so shameful about not knowing how to win.
Yeah.
I try to give my partner, he doesn't deal well with complaints, because who does, right? He doesn't deal well with complaints, but if I give him a way to win, hey, babe, that thing that you did the other day made me so happy. I was wondering if you could do that thing again. I really enjoy that. Giving him a way to win, he feels empowered and capable of showing up in a good way.
At the end of the day, that's literally all you can do. And you're already doing more than most people would, but like, that's such an important way of just the way Ricky phrased that. Like, that's turning your complaints into desires is such a great spin on it. Because you really do want them to win. Like, it's in your best interest as well. And telling people, instead of, you never do this, you never touch me, it can, or you never initiate. It can be more of like I don't know if I've appropriately told you how much I love it when you initiate. I love it when you, at least, I know it's scary for you. Like, initiating, especially when it comes to like initiating actual bedroom time, that can be very scary for a lot of men, and especially men with depression or shame, because they're already feeling like they're about to be rejected. So it's very difficult to initiate sometimes, but that's where you need to have those intimate conversations where she would say, I bet it's very scary for you to initiate sometimes. And he needs to be honest and go, yeah, it is really scary, because I'm like, what if she rejects me? And you need to be able to be like, when that happens, like, we can talk about that. Like, sometimes I'm not in the mood, just like sometimes you're not in the mood, but it goes a long way for you to start with some non-sexual affection, or kiss me once, like, just those kisses mean the world to me. And like you said, giving them a way to win, tell them how it makes you feel loved and appreciated and desired when they do X, Y, and Z. If they what they do with that information is completely up to them. And that will either lead to you guys feeling connected and close, or if he forgets about it and ignores it and, doesn't prioritize that, then that's going to lead to you feeling unfulfilled again.
Yeah. I have another magic tool, I guess you would call it.
I love magic tools.
A magic tool? That sounds dirty. I don't know if I like calling it that. We may edit that out. Or you can leave it if it's wonderful. Okay, here's a magic tool. I like to assume positive intent.
So true.
Yeah, this works very well with my partner. I used to come at him assuming that he was trying to make my life miserable, which would sound like, you never schedule dates and I'm sad about that and you don't care about it, which you can just assume how well that went. But instead, when I flipped around and I realized, gosh, this person is with me in a relationship, they probably want me to be happy. I would start my conversation with him by assuming positive intent. I would say, there's something that's been really bothering me, and I know that you love me and you're not trying to do this to me on purpose. So let me present this to you and let's figure out a way to problem solve it together, because I know you want the best for me in this relationship, because that's who you are. And I love that about you.
I feel loved just hearing that. I'm like, that one makes me want to get on board. I'm like, Ricky, excellent. Whatever I did, I want to know.
Thanks, Jimmy. Yeah. But see, there's serious power in words like that. It is like Jimmy and I aren't even in a relationship and he felt like he was ready to change. So
for sure. Now I will push back on you real quick, because I don't know if will be any listeners, but if I posted that exact thing to TikTok per se, there's so many people, and I don't know if this is you, but so many people are saying, why do I need to treat him like a baby?
Oh.
So I hear so many people say that. Why do I need to treat him like a baby? Why do I need to lead with so many, oh, please don't get upset. Oh, please don't shut down. Please don't. Okay. While I understand where you're coming from, totally understand that frustration, we have to remember that we all get triggered in different ways. And in the ways that you get triggered, you would really like it if your partner led with some soft, totally. Hey, I don't think you did this on purpose. I'm not coming at you, telling you that you're a failure or you screw up. It always helps to lead with vulnerability and respect. And that's just one way to do it.
Well, I know too. I think this is one of the points you were just getting at too, that I really loved. There are ways that my partner has to kind of use the kid gloves with me. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of the people who are in the comments going, oh, I don't want to have to hold his hand on this. And it's like, man, you're not a perfect person. I'm sure there's some ways that your partner's walking around going, gosh, I'm like way better at this than her. But I love this person and I'm going to give her a little slack, Yeah. Nobody's a perfect person in a relationship. For me, it is a privilege when I notice that I'm the one who's in the driver's seat because my partner's all triggered and freaking out about something. I'm like, gosh, this is my opportunity as the more regulated partner right now to get us back onto track. And I love that I can do that for him.
Sorry, I'm just cut you off.
Yeah. And sometimes he does that for me. And I love it when he does that. Sometimes I'm the unhinged partner and he's going, whoa, babe, let's breathe together a little bit, because you seem like you're very heated on this. And I'm like, I'm so glad that he's not just all huffy. Like, why do I have to caretake her because she's getting emotional about that? He doesn't do that. He's like, wow, you seem really heated about this. Let me help calm you down, because we're in a relationship. We have decided to caretake each other. Let's bring our old pal Stan Tatkin into this.
I was just about to do that. You stole my thunder.
You do it. I'll stop talking. You do it, Jimmy.
Okay. Well, I was going to try to impress you by saying anyone who feels that way needs to go back to our Stan Tatkin episode and remember that we are in each other's care. We have made an agreement. The relationship is a third entity, and you can either feed it or deprive it. And we're both on that tightrope together. If one partner is, it's not about, I need to baby him. It's that we're on a tightrope together and we're both like, listen, if he goes down, I'm going down with him. Or if she goes down, I'm going down with him. So we're both on this tightrope together. We're just trying to balance each other. Like,
Right.
now I would still empathize with someone who feels like they have to walk on eggshells. I am not saying that you have to walk on eggshells in a relationship. If that's you and you're like walking on eggshells because they lash out at you in rage, or they immediately shut down anytime you say like, hey, can we talk about something? Like, this really fills my love tank. Oh, I guess none of the other stuff I do fills your love tank. Okay, great.
Right.
We are not talking about that. That is,
Nope.
that is a very dangerous side of relationships where that never leads to connection or closeness either. And you need to be setting some safe, healthy boundaries around that, where it's like, hey, I'm not gonna have conversations that go like this. I can't.
Totally.
All I was saying was, this is a way that you could fill my love tank, and you took that to mean that I'm calling you a failure and you're the worst partner. That's because they're projecting their own shame onto you. That is not your responsibility to walk on eggshells for this person. You need to be getting in counseling very quickly and saying,
Yeah.
I don't feel like I can have a healthy, safe conversation with my partner.
Or listener, crush those eggs. Crush them. Feel them under your feet crushing. And I'm telling you, I used to tiptoe around my partner's bad responses. Nothing changed. Nothing changed. And so instead of delicately tiptoeing around the eggs, I just crushed them. And I was like, hey, we need to have a conversation about how you react when I try to bring something up gently. Because in my
100%.
mind, yeah, I'd like to have conversations where I'm going, hey, something's bothering me. And I would like for you to sit down and go, okay, let's talk about that, instead of getting defensive. So it's going to be hard, but we're going to do it. And those eggs crushed under my feet and it felt so good.
As long as it's safe, you should be at a point where you can tell your partner, if your partner shuts down, if your partner gets defensive every single time you try, you're like, dude, I'm trying the soft startups. They're still shutting down. They're still getting defensive. You need to have a conversation with them where you say, I don't feel like I can bring something up in a way where you're not going to get defensive. Can you tell me a way where I can bring something up and you not take it as an attack? Because I don't know how to do that. And I need that I need us to be able to have healthy conversations.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I care about this relationship. I know that you care about me and I care about you too. Let's figure out how to talk to each other, because we both will feel better when that happens.
I love that. And if they're not, and if they take that as like you're just being too much, then unfortunately that is your sign that this relationship is in big trouble, because obviously that is not the respectful way to handle that.
True. There are people out there too who are wonderful people, but maybe they're not ready for the kind of healthy relationship that we want and need for ourselves. And that's one of those sad truths, you know. This was a sad episode, Jimmy. Man, it wasn't. You're feeling good about it. I'm sad for you know what? I guess it's not sad, because if the relationship crumbles because they aren't ready for a healthy relationship, I'm excited for those people to get out into the world and find somebody who'll have a 100%. Stack of books next to their bed on 100%. The ways that they can show up in a healthy way. Yeah. Okay. Maybe it wasn't that sad.
I mean, it's always sad. I've said continue throughout the episode. If this relationship breaks up, like, that's always sad. 4 years of your life, like 4 years.
Yeah.
But I'm not at all. But like, if that person continually shows patterns that they're not planning on changing, then I'm not at all sad for your future, because I know you're going to go meet somebody that reciprocates you, and that is going to be like a breath of fresh air. You're going to be like, wait a second, like you're serving me. You're carrying my burdens. You care about how I feel loved and valued. Like, you're initiating. What did I do to deserve you to initiate? And they're like, you didn't do anything. Like, I love you. This is what love looks like. And you're like, when?
What?
Like, when did what? So, that's not to say that this can't be this relationship. I'm just saying that this relationship needs attention. Like this, there's a tension that needs attention. And you need to be talking to somebody about that.
I have a lot of hope for this. I'm looking at this email and I'm not seeing a hopeless case. I'm really not.
No.
The efforts that he's put forth, gosh, he writes her poems from time to time. This doesn't look like a guy who's gaslighting you or
Nope.
or asking you to wait and not expecting to do anything. It just looks to me like a guy who doesn't know what he's doing, and you guys don't have a good plan.
100%.
Therapy is a wonderful place to get new tools and to get plans for meeting each other's needs. Even if you're the only one going to therapy, which can be scary too. But a therapist can help you learn the ways of nonviolent communication. So you can learn. I mean, I think part of what Jimmy and I do online is to try to teach people how to bring things up in healthy ways so that their partner might respond better.
Yeah.
But anyway, see, now I'm the one who doesn't know where I'm going with that.
No, I love it. And yeah, it all comes down to you being honest with yourself about how this relationship isn't. It's not sustainable. You can say that to yourself. Like it's actually empowering for you to be like, I don't think I would be fulfilled if we got married right now and this was the state of our relationship. Like that wouldn't work for me. I wouldn't leave me fulfilled. That's okay for you to admit that, and then move forward in that process.
Right. Being able to admit that to yourself means it's time to do something different. And that
100%.
can be very hopeful. Very hopeful.
It can. Unfortunately, you probably waited a long, long time because of maybe some of your own issues, maybe some healing that you need to work on, which is trying to save people from their pain, trying to give people the benefit of the doubt and not being assertive about what you need. Those are all very tough things. But if you struggle with any people pleasing, if you struggle with any anxious attachment, that is classic issues where it's like, I just don't feel safe to voice my needs. You need to get rid of that thought in your head, which is like, but what if this leads to something bad? What if this leads to conflict? What if this leads to breaking up?
Yeah.
Well, isn't it funny how we can be so scared of someone abandoning us that we abandon ourselves and just keep our needs hidden or don't assert them, or we're terrified to bring up how we're truly feeling because we're scared of them leaving, but yet this relationship isn't fulfilling and there's no actual deep connection here. And so we just stay in that weird circle where it's like, I'm not going to bring something up because I'm scared. You got to get over that fear one way or the other.
Yeah. My dream for this listener is that she learns to care about her own needs as much as, and put the same kind of effort toward her own needs as she does her partner's.
That's huge.
That's my dream for her.
I wish we could interject that in like the first, we should do like a coming up.
Oh, you can. We can. The magic of editing. Let's do it.
It never works. I always try it and it never works. No, but anyone who's still listening, that's where we're going to end on, because that point is like just the most poignant. Imagine you putting the amount of effort that you put into serving other people and validating other people, that you did that for yourself.
Yes.
Incredible.
Jimmy, I had a moment in my relationship where I heard myself say, I care deeply about what you want and what makes you happy. And I also care deeply about what I want and I need. And I love that. Yeah, I know. As soon as it was out of my mouth, I was like, oh my gosh, I meant it. I really do care about what I need here. And I want that for her. I want that for our listener.
Yep. And that's a healthy place. And you know what? It's a healthy place for you to say that. And then if you don't see results in however long timeline you want to say, 3 months, whatever you want to say. Yeah. If you don't see results, you can love this person and still end this relationship. Yeah. And that's still a healthy thing. That's still you being healthy. I can cry with you. I can support you in this, but this isn't going to fulfill me long term. Anyways.
I like it. I think I feel pretty good about that.
I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah. So thank you so much, listener. If you recognize that as your email, we really appreciate. It's a quality email, quality question. Thank you. We want more.
Thank you.
I think we want more.
Yeah, sure. Anyways, that was great. And hopefully we'll see you in the next one where we have something for you.
On a regular basis. That's hopefully. We'll see. No promises, but that's what we're shooting for. Right? We're not changing. Either way. They know that, Jimmy.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Either way, thanks for being here.
Yeah, from both of us. Yep.
Bye.